Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to Mayor Baraka's Facebook Live. My name is Cynthia McElroy. I am over Newark People's Assembly, where we continue to make sure the community is aware of all the wonderful things that we have in the city of Newark, led by Mayor Baraka. Before we get started, I'm going to make a couple of community announcements, but today's Facebook Live is about the Guaranteed Income Program, and we have lovely guests on it we're going to jump a bit into, but I just want to make a couple of announcements. This weekend, we are in the Century Ward for the community cleanup. So we want all the block associations and the tenant associations to please visit our City of Newark website so you can register. We want you to come out and help. We're going to be out Saturday and Sunday from 8 to 1 at the Cityplex Movie Theater where you can pick up your utensils. It's going to be the DPW in the community and Mayor Baraka doing the cleanup. So please join us. Please go register at the City of Newark page, and also on Instagram. You can find it as well on Facebook. Tonight, we do have the community meeting with the 4th Precinct. We're going to be with Captain Laurie at Cityplex at 6 p.m. You're going to meet the new recruits in the 4th Precinct area, so please come out and join the conversation. Also, with that being said, that this Monday coming up on August 25th, we're going to be to join the conversation with Mayor Baraka in the East Ward. So we want everyone from the East Ward to come out, make your voice heard. You'll have a conversation with Mayor Baraka and his leadership team. We want to hear all your concerns, and it's going to be at Elliott Street School. At South Street School at 6 p.m. So please come out, South Street School, East Ward, 6 p.m. Monday, August the 25th. This weekend, we also have the Literacy Town Hall meeting going on, which is going to be at the Vince Lombardi Center in the North Ward, and it's going to be at 11 a.m. So please come out, bring your children. We're going to read books. We're going to talk to the community and talk about the importance of literacy and making sure that we're moving our city forward. With that being said, we're going to get into the conversation. We have some lovely guests on, we have Kevin Callahan, which is the city philanthropical liaison. He works with our foundations. We also have Mayor Carter from Minnesota, as well as Amy Castro, which is the founder and the director of the Guaranteed Income Program. So we have the guests on, and they're just going to talk about the guaranteed income. How does it work? How did it work? Because this is a pilot program that happened, but we want to make sure that we make our community aware of it and how we can move forward with potential opportunities to have it. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Kevin. He can lead the conversation, and then we'll jump into Mayor Carter and then Amy. Thank you.
Sure. So it's a pleasure to be on the Mayor's Facebook Live. My name is Kevin Callahan, and I help to develop and lead our Guaranteed Income pilot in the city of Newark. So Mayor Baraka called on us to make this happen several years ago. And what we're celebrating today and talking about today is some really positive results from a 2-year Guaranteed Income pilot that we implemented in the city. And just so everybody knows the basic concept concept is to pilot providing an income floor for some of our residents in the city who need it the most, to inform both city policy, state policy, and also federal policy. So we randomly selected 400 people in partnership with the Center for Guaranteed Income Research. We enrolled them in a guaranteed income pilot where they received a total of $6,000 a year for 2 years. Half of our participants received the payments twice a month. The other half received them 2 times a year. And so what we really wanted to see was what kinds of decisions people were making, what kind of spending decisions people were making with those 2 different disbursement types so that we could really inform policy. And when you think about an income floor, when you think about guaranteed income, this is something similar to an earned income tax credit or a child tax credit, something that really helps families get a leg up, make sure they can afford rent, basic essentials. And it's something that we know is very necessary. We saw from the pandemic, and other times over the past several years, especially with inflation the way it is today, that, the people who need it the most need a hand up to really flourish in their communities. So Newark was one of the leaders in bringing guaranteed income. We were one of the early adopters of the idea. Mayor Michael Tubbs in Stockton, California, who started Mayors for Guaranteed Income, did a pilot, and Mayor Baraka was very inspired by it and wanted to bring it here to Newark. And so we figured out how to make it happen with a task force of 30 community members, community groups. We raised a significant amount of funds from foundations. And we also put some city dollars to make it happen. And so I think it would be best probably maybe for Cerinthia, it's up to you, but maybe Mayor Carr could talk a little bit about Mayors for Guaranteed Income, and then Dr. Castro can go into some of the research findings.
Absolutely, absolutely. Mayor Carter, please. Yep.
Thank you so much. It's good to be on. It's good to see you all. And it's good to have partners in this work from across the country. I'm Melvin Carter. I'm the mayor of St. Paul, Minnesota. And I'm one of the founding members and I guess one of the national co-chairs of Mayors for Guaranteed Income. St. Paul was the second city in the country to run a mayor-led pilot on guaranteed income, the first to use public funds. And it's astounding how much we've learned through this. I always, whenever I speak on this, I ask folks, tell me, I tell them, listen, I'll stop if I'm wrong. But I think everybody in this room heard somebody say when we were a kid, if you give low-income Americans money, they'll just spend it on, and then the crowd says drugs and alcohol. Everybody knows that. Everybody has heard that. For some reason, the uncle or the teacher or the auntie or the whoever said that to us never cited a study. They never said any, standard deviations. They never gave us like real information and data that we could work with. But we built generations of public policy based on the belief that that thing was true, based on the belief that, we've allowed folks who live off of trust funds and dividends to tell us that people who never see a dime without punching a clock are lazy, based on the belief that single moms who somehow can raise 4 children and pay the rent on a minimum wage don't know how to manage their money. The point is this. The reason I think no one would ever argue that we're winning the war on poverty is because we haven't known where the battlefield was. We haven't been able to really root our work in an operational understanding of the war on poverty. So when we have an organization like Mayors for Guaranteed Income, since the onset of the pandemic, since that time, in that time since St. Paul became the second city to do this, we've run over 6 mayor-run pilots that have distributed over $350 million in unconditional cash payments to Americans to low-income American families across this country. And that's incredible. And that's helpful enough. But one of the things, and you'll hear from Amy on this call as well, who's one of our researchers, the traditional approach to politics here to say, hey, listen, here's my announcement. This is what we're going to do. And then sort of come back maybe 10 months to a year later and say, hey, in my opinion, this was a wild success. This worked great. It's fantastic. So, but your mayor is different. Your mayor has decided that, and all of those mayors along the lines of Mayors for Guaranteed Income have decided that getting it right is more important than being right. And instead of just telling you, in my opinion, I did something amazing, we're going to engage a independent, professional, external evaluator to do the evaluation so that we can demonstrate what are the impacts that we're making. In delivering over $350 million in unconditional cash to Americans across the country with independent evaluation, we are delivering together the biggest, I believe, tranche of information our country has ever seen on what poverty really is and how poverty really works. And to no surprise, it's debunking all of those lies. What we're finding out is that when low-income Americans have money, it doesn't matter what city it is. When low-income Americans have money, the vast majority of it goes to the basic necessities. They pay the rent. They buy their children bicycles and presents. They, buy groceries for their family. That less than 1% of those dollars go to vices. And one of the things that I think shocks some folks, it's not surprising that people who have enough money to make it to the end of the month are a little less stressed, and their kind of socio-emotional health kind of goes up. But one thing that I think has surprised folks is that instead of working less, people say, oh, why would I work? Why would I work anymore if the government's handing out free money? I've never heard anybody say that who could quit their day job for $500 a month. But not only are people not working less, but low-income Americans, when they have dollars in their pocket, use it as an opportunity to work more. That's surprising until you ask them why. I say, oh, I fixed up my truck. I could go to work. Oh, I put my child in childcare so I could go to work. It's incredible to me how a really relatively small amount of money can make a rudder effect, can like turn a life forever. This is astounding to me. It's a best practice. It shouldn't be a new practice. We're 60 years into a war on drugs, and we're just now figuring out trying to give low-income Americans money. So it shouldn't be a new practice. It's something Martin Luther King taught. It's something that we've that's not really new in the world, and it's very, very rooted in common sense. And fortunately, there's an enormous amount of research that says that it's working. So congratulations to you, Newark, for being part of this community and for being willing to do something so different from what we're used to. But we know that there's no way to get different results if we're not willing to do different things.
Thank you, Mayor Carter. That was excellent, good information. Now, Amy, you can chime in and let us know all about how you came up with how you came up with all your, basically take us away. Let us, your results, yes.
Yeah, I got you. No, that's great. And please like jump in if there's questions or Kevin and Sarinthia and Mayor, just in case I'm throwing off. But I just want to pick up a thread from what Mayor Carter was just saying, which is that something that people don't understand if they haven't lived paycheck to paycheck, or they haven't sort of like walked deeply in community with people in poverty, is that it takes money to make money. I think this is one of the things that we really fundamentally do not understand about the modern economy. This is something that's really new. New meaning, if I were to say to my parents, what was it like when you were coming up, right? Different landscape. It didn't exactly take money to make money in the same way, but it does now, right? And so when we think about, the research around guaranteed income and these different programs, one of the things that's so exciting is that we see the ways that people can take such a small amount of cash, right? It's a lot to them, but it's small in the grand scheme of things, of the economy. And they're able to then leverage it in such a way that creates stability for their family and for their kids, which I don't think that we talk about that enough, nor about kind of what it's actually like to try and make ends meet in the United States today. Like, it's just crushing for people. But a few details I just want to say as to what distinguishes Newark out of all the other places that are experimenting with unconditional cash. First thing I should say is that similar to Mayor Carter's city, one of the things that is super exciting, I'm biased, right? Because I'm from Pennsylvania, so I'm your neighbors. I'm one of your neighbors, is that the city of Newark is rooted in community in a way that a lot of other places are not. Right? Yes, we all have our community groups, that type of thing, but there's a legacy of community organizing and a legacy of block work and ward work and community organizations that are outside the normal realm of policymaking, right? So typically the way that we pass legislation around things like anti-poverty or economic mobility or housing developments, right, is that folks talk to someone like me, or to an economist that works for the president or for the federal government, they come up with some ideas and then they drop them on a city. And if it doesn't work, it sort of acts slightly befuddled, while skipping the step from the very beginning, which is, did you ask the city what might actually benefit them, right? That in no way is what Mayors for a Guaranteed Income does, nor is that the way that Newark operates, which is really exciting. The thing that Mayor Baraka and Mayor Carter have in common is the fact that they hold science really firmly in one hand, saying, y'all can ignore empiricism and the scientific process if you want, but like, I had science in college and high school, I know how it works. So they hold empiricism really tightly in one hand and say, like, we need to adhere to rigor in science. But on the other hand, they place equivalent weight on the voice of real people. And that's really the thing that distinguishes this pilot in a lot of ways from many other ones. There are other ones that take this ilk, but I think the rich history of organizing and community work in Newark, 35 CBOs, I believe is a number, right, Kevin, that were involved in planning this pilot. And so it was spearheaded by the mayor's office, but it was rooted and grounded first in listening deeply to people and having them bring their voices to the table. And it really made the pilot much stronger and actually informs, the scientific literature quite a bit. So just thank you so much to the city for that. The thing that's unique about the design here compared to other places is that rather than just sort of offering one thing, the city took an approach of saying, well, how should we actually design this program? And again, that came out of community. So they had two different groups of people. One that was receiving the money in a lump sum amount, so similar to the earned income tax credit, getting one lump sum at once. Excuse me, it's the end of the day. Comparing that group with a group that were getting it in a sort of a recurring fashion, so more similar to a paycheck, where you can rely on that money more predictably over time. And one of the things that we saw was that people reacted to these two different types of cash really differently. The people in the lump sum group, where they're getting sort of, that several $1,000s all at once, what they tended to do was to put those sort of payments towards big lump sum purchases that would help them sort of advance their goals in a different way. So think about things like repairing one's car to get back to work. That was probably the thing that was the most common. Or combining that lump sum together with other income from other places, from family members, from other things within one's own pocketbook, in order to sort of move, right? So cobbling things together to put down a down payment on an apartment, for instance, right? For recurring payments, that's a little bit different. So people who sort of were using that were in that recurring cash group, where the money was a little bit, more similar to the way that you'd receive a paycheck. They tended to sort of layer that money on top of the routine budgets. So they spent the money in the least surprising way possible, which was on basic needs, right? And so we saw that the majority of the cash went towards food security, towards increasing the quality, of food in the home, particularly for kids. But what was the most exciting thing is that across both groups, we saw an increase in the amount of time that parents were able to spend with their children. So we know that, if you are experiencing financial scarcity, it is unbelievably tied up in time scarcity, right? Is that if you have to run around the city without a car, without solid transportation, working 2 jobs, 3 jobs, picking up one kid over here, the other kid over there, right? All of which cost money, you become really not necessarily resource poor, but time poor. And that eats at your relationships. So one of the things that was really exciting was that we saw that by stabilizing the finances in these households, it had this really interesting spillover effect where people had more time. And what did they do at that time? They invested it back in their community, and they invested it in their kids. And so we started to see really interesting things happen in this pilot specifically, where we saw an increase in the children of parents receiving a guaranteed income, an increase in those kids getting A grades in comparison to the control group, which was not receiving the cash. And so we think about, there's all these different ways that change can happen. And there's so much more I could say, but I'll hold back. So I'm not sure what questions Kevin has for me, but we're pretty excited about the way that Newark has led on this issue.
Thank you, Amy. So questions from the community. How did residents find out about this program? How were they selected for the pilot program, the Guaranteed Income Pilot Program?
Sure.
Good question. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, so we put out an open call basically through the city's social media channels. We actually did a Facebook Live way back then. I guess it was around 2022. We worked through our nonprofit partners. We really worked however we could to try to get the word out. And then again, what's really important about this is to keep ourselves, kind of behind a veil so that we're not handpicking people. So when we did announce the opportunity to go and apply, the applications were managed by Dr. Castro's organization, the Center for Guaranteed Income Research. So residents who applied to the program actually went on their website, were selected by them through a lottery, and then placed into the program. Those names were then sent back to us so that we could onboard them and put them in the program.
And so what, if you could just explain, what was the criteria, the eligibility for the residents? Who
Oh, sure. Yeah. So we decided to make it very broad, at least in this initial pilot. So it was anybody who was at 200% or less of the federal poverty line. You had to be 18, live in Newark. And because we did use some American Rescue Plan Act funds, which were the COVID relief funds, we did say that you had to show some impact from COVID, which obviously in one way or another was most of our residents. But that was the only criteria that we had in the pilot.
Thank you, Kevin. And then so we had this pilot program. Just was it beneficial? And then is there any potential to do it in the near future again to help other residents who could benefit from this?
Yeah, so, I mean, I think what's important for residents to know too and to see here is that, Mayor Baraka is just really committed to following national best practice, to putting Newark on the national stage and making sure that we're bringing whatever is working in lots of other places here to Newark. And guaranteed income is just like that. And so what we're doing now in Newark is really trying to lead the way in the state of New Jersey. And so number one, we're working with a network of partners to bring this to Trenton and to encourage our legislators to think about guaranteed income programs, different types of guaranteed income programs in different parts of our state. We're working, for instance, with New Jersey Policy Perspective, which is hosting a conference on guaranteed income on September 18th. Everyone can feel free to look at their website and sign up for that. We do think that there will be additional pilots that will benefit Newark that are coming in the future. But like I said, really what we're trying to do and the mission behind this is a policy push. Mayor Carter talked about those data points. And so now we want to go to our legislators and say, this worked in Newark, this has worked in other places, this is a good idea, and we need to make it happen in our state. And that's really what we're going to be focusing on over the next several months.
Thank you. And then so for, I see some people are jumping in a little late, but like, how can someone visit this information or see, or what websites they can visit to find out more information about this
Sure.
program?
So the information for New Jersey, the Newark pilot, which we've now made a New Jersey website, is newjerseyequity.org. If you visit newjerseyequity.org, you'll see some videos. Two of them feature participants in the pilot. There's a couple other videos that explain the pilot and just kind of give the basics of it. You can also find that on the website. And you'll also find there are policy proposals. So when I talked about going to Trenton with specific policy proposals, you could see what those policy proposals are on newjerseyequity.org. And maybe I don't know if our partners wanted to give their websites and information.
Yes, please. Mayor Carter, you want to share the information as well as Amy, please, the websites.
Yeah, absolutely. Our information is at our city website, www.stpaul.gov. If you just Google St. Paul guaranteed income results, a lot of that would be for our local. The container for a lot of the information, I shared information on over 6 pilots that have distributed over $350 million in unconditional cash since the onset of the pandemic. That would be Mayors for Guaranteed Income. That's mayorsforagi.org. So that's where all of the kind of the collective information is held. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, and then on our end, it is penncgir.org. That's PENN, C as in cat, GIR.org. Fairly easy to find most of the time online. Is there any, I just also wanted to sort of highlight, I know Kevin mentioned this before, but if there's one thing I could ask people listening to look at, it would be to go to the New Jersey Equity page and take a look at the little explainer cartoon that actually talks about what guaranteed income is. So you notice that we're talking about in a little bit more of a clear way. And then second, see the little vignettes, the videos that include people who participated in the pilot. I mean, hearing from me is one thing, hearing from Kevin's another, hearing from Mayor Carter is phenomenal. But if you want to actually understand how this works, listen to real people versus us. I mean, I'm not a bot, I am real, right? But no, I mean that in all seriousness, that one of the things that's the most exciting about the way that the city of Newark approaches its work is that it's people first. And nothing highlights that better than the videos that Kevin and his team have put together. So I just super encourage you to take a look at those.
Thank you. Thank you, Amy. Is there any last words before, we in the live? I think this is all great information. I was able to watch a video and it really made a difference to the residents in our city. A lot of times people don't understand, but like Amy said, and Kevin, I would encourage you to visit these videos to see how it really made a difference and an impact on, the families in Newark, and making sure that we understand there is a difference. Not everybody may be tribute to a lot of things, but they kind of help them in the long run to make sacrifices and be able to still go to work, but help with the challenges they need with this guaranteed income. So with that being said, is there any takeaways that we can, let the residents know?
I would just say that we're working every day to make Newark more equitable, more inclusive, provide more and more support for our residents so that they can find affordability. This is one way to do it under Mayor Baraka's leadership. And I hope everyone visits the website, like you said, and explores some more information at newjerseyequity.org.
I just say old practices can't get new results. And so if you are somebody who wants new results in Newark with regard to economic justice, even frankly, if something like this feels like, wait a minute, that feels not what I'm used to, that feels something different. If we're making ourselves uncomfortable, if we're building a new set of practices, if we're building a new set of learnings, particularly to the extent that we're doing that with independent evaluation, that's what makes us eligible for new results in the first place. So congratulations for your new result eligibility, Newark.
Thank you.
I would just echo the same thing. Just congratulations to this group and to anybody who sort of contributed just the hundreds and hundreds of unpaid volunteer hours that went into getting the project off the ground. Sometimes people from the outside, they're like, well, did it make a difference? I don't know. Take a look at the videos, talk to anybody who participated in it, and you'd be really hard pressed to not see the ways that it altered people's experiences and just being able to feel just a little bit more human in this landscape that we're currently in.
Right. And I would just say, we always thank Mayor Baraka for all the initiatives, helping the community, making sure the community voice is heard and, understanding and ways to help our community. So without Mayor Baraka, none of this would be possible. So I just want to say thank you all for coming in on this call, making sure we're providing this information to the community. They need to be aware of it, and looking forward to the next steps after, we move forward with this pilot program in the future. And I want to say good night and be safe. Thank you all.